Okay, let's dive in. Think about April 26, 2025. Pahalgam, Jammu, and Kashmir. It's supposed to be scenic, peaceful almost,
Beautiful valley.
but instead it became the scene of something truly horrific, a major terror attack. And then almost immediately after this,
Mm.
this incredibly strange digital twist happened.
It's quite the sequence of events. First, the absolute tragedy of the attack itself, 26 people killed, many more injured, just devastating.
Horrific. And then the resistance front, TRF, the group linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba, banned they initially claimed responsibility online.
Right, which sadly seemed to fit their pattern. It wasn't entirely surprising given their history.
Exactly. But then, just as quickly, they did a complete U-turn. They denied it, said they were hacked. A coordinated cyber intrusion was the phrase they
It's
used.
a cyber intrusion. I mean, it almost sounds like something out of a movie script, not the typical excuse from a terror group. It's
That's
bizarre.
bizarre is the word. So that's what we really need to unpack today, this whole confusing situation. We need to try and sort through the facts, the claims, the speculation, and figure out what might actually be behind this extraordinary denial from TRF.
Absolutely. And it's crucial we don't forget the real human cost here. Pahalgam wasn't just a location on a map that day. It was a place of immense suffering.
Definitely. The attack itself was brutal, a fresh wound for a region that already knows too much violence.
And like you said, the initial claim from TRF, it felt like, okay, here we go again. It fit the narrative, unfortunately.
Which makes the denial just stand out even more starkly. They didn't just say, oops, mistake. They claimed the initial post was fake.
Yeah. False, hasty, and part of an orchestrated campaign to malign the Kashmiri resistance. That was their line. They're essentially saying someone framed them digitally.
And they even floated the idea, didn't they, that maybe Indian cyber intelligence operatives were behind it.
Talk about deflection. They mentioned doing an internal audit and finding early indicators. Well, it's a narrative, certainly. Blaming the other side is a classic move.
But the sheer irony, right? A terror group complaining about their PR problems being caused by hackers. It's almost comical if the context wasn't so serious. Like a bank robber blaming a pickpocket for taking their wallet after the heist.
It really pushes the limits of credibility, and to understand why it feels so flimsy, we need to remember who TRF actually is.
Right. They were officially labeled a terrorist organization by India in 2023 under the UAPA. Not exactly choir boys.
Their whole rap sheet involves promoting terrorism, recruiting fighters, smuggling weapons and drugs, likely from Pakistan, facilitating infiltration.
And they're widely seen as basically a front group or maybe like an edgier offshoot for Lashkar-e-Taiba Lati.
Precisely. It's proxy, essentially. So when this group claimed the Pahalgam attack, it aligned with everything we know about them. It wasn't a shock.
Which makes the sudden "we were hacked" excuse just ring incredibly hollow. So this cyber intrusion claim, how credible is it, really?
Well, when you look around, check different sources, news reports, social media chatter, there's just no independent evidence backing it up. It's purely TRF's word against, well, everything else.
And what do cybersecurity folks think? People who actually understand this stuff.
Generally, the experts find it pretty unlikely. The thinking is, if you're sophisticated enough to plan and carry out a deadly terror attack,
You'd think you'd have better digital security than to let someone just waltz in and post fake claims on your official channel.
exactly. It suggests either incredibly poor security, which seems odd for an active terror group, or the claim isn't true. The capabilities seem mismatched.
Okay, but what about their accusation against India? Could state actors do something like that? Falsely attribute an attack?
Look, in the world of cyber warfare and intelligence, strange things happen. It's not impossible to imagine state actors engaging in disinformation, but
But it's incredibly risky, right? If it got exposed, the blowback would be massive.
huge. Diplomatically, reputationally. It's a very dangerous game. And right now, there's zero proof pointing towards Indian involvement in this specific incident. It's just TRF's unsubstantiated claim.
So Occam's razor suggests it's probably just them trying to wriggle out of responsibility.
That seems the most likely explanation based on what we know now. It looks like a way to deflect accountability.
Okay, so if we assume the hacking claim is bogus, why the sudden U-turn? Why claim it and then immediately deny it? What forced their hand?
Sources within India's security and intelligence communities point to a couple of really significant pressures converging on TRF. First, and perhaps foremost, pressure from Pakistan.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Given the Lanati connection, Pakistan would have a strong interest in managing the fallout, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Especially an attack this big, drawing international eyes.
Absolutely. Pakistan's constantly under the microscope regarding support for militant groups. An attack like Pahalgam, claimed by their known proxy, is the last thing they need diplomatically. It's very plausible that Islamabad basically ordered TRF to retract the claim to try and contain the damage.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What else?
The second major factor was the reaction within Kashmir itself. There were massive protests. People were genuinely outraged.
So not just grief, but real anger directed at the perpetrators.
Yes, very much so. Reports describe large crowds condemning the violence, rejecting TRF's narrative completely, locals basically saying, "Not in our name." That kind of public repudiation right on their doorstep is powerful. It hurts their image, their recruitment, everything.
Wow. So pressure from their handlers in Pakistan and pressure from the very population they claim to represent. That's a tough spot.
It really undermines them. So, faced with that kind of backlash, maybe the cyber intrusion story, however weak, seemed like the only way out, a desperate attempt to save face.
And then there's India's diplomatic angle. They've been pushing hard internationally to highlight Pakistan's role in terrorism.
Exactly. TRF's initial claim was like handing India fresh ammunition on a silver platter. It perfectly fit India's narrative. The denial then could be seen as an attempt to take that ammunition away to muddy the waters again.
It's quite a tangled web. And the public reaction you mentioned, the anger and grief in Kashmir, that spilled online too, right?
Oh, definitely.
Oh.
Platforms like X were flooded, people mourning the victims, yes, but also furious, condemning the attack, condemning Pakistan's alleged role.
And the skepticism about the hacking story.
Widespread. Lots of sarcasm, lots of disbelief online. People were just not buying the cyber intrusion line. It became almost a running joke for some.
You saw comments basically saying, right, the dog ate your homework and hackers posted your terror claim. That kind of thing.
Pretty much. It shows that in today's connected world, it's harder for groups like this to just dictate the narrative with flimsy excuses. People see through it more easily.
Meanwhile, India's response has been pretty straightforward, hasn't it? Denial or no denial, they're sticking to their guns.
Yeah, absolutely. They reiterated the 2023 terror designation. Counter-terror operations are ongoing. For them, TRF's denial changes nothing about the group's nature or India's resolve to act against them.
And diplomatically, they're using the whole episode, including the initial claim, to keep the pressure on Pakistan globally.
For sure. There was that quote from a senior official basically saying Pakistan's backing is why TRF changed its tune. India sees this denial as proof of external manipulation, confirming their view of TRF as a puppet.
This whole thing, weird as it is, really shines a light on how terrorism operates now in the digital age.
It does. Groups need these online platforms for propaganda, recruitment, claims of responsibility. It's essential for them.
But it also makes them vulnerable, doesn't it? As this alleged or perhaps fabricated cyber intrusion shows.
Right. Whether it really happened or not, the idea of it highlights a potential weakness. Their reliance on digital tools opens them up to digital problems, whether it's actual hacking or just having their own claims used against them.
And it kind of blurs the lines, too, between real-world violence and online manipulation. We might see more of this, groups using cyber excuses, true or false, to confuse things.
Which means, for all of us, for you listening, it's more important than ever to be critical about information, especially when it comes from groups with a known history of violence and deceit. You really have to question the source and the motive.
So, looking forward, what does this mean for TRF? Their credibility seems shot, at least on this front.
Yeah, this whole episode has definitely damaged them. They'll remain under intense scrutiny, no doubt, both physically and digitally. Their future looks even more precarious.
And for Kashmir, the situation is still incredibly complex.
Deeply complex. You have this clear public desire for peace, shown by those protests, but also the ongoing security challenges, the need for diplomacy, for development. The frustration is real, but so is the resilience.
So wrapping this up, the big picture here seems to be how this bizarre Pahalgam situation, the attack, the claim, the weird denial, really shows us the messy reality of terrorism meeting technology and geopolitics today.
It's a perfect storm of modern conflict dynamics, and it leaves us with a lingering question, perhaps. As terror groups become even more embedded in the digital world, how else might their tactics evolve? How will they try to manipulate information, claim or deny acts in the future? And what does that mean for figuring out the truth?
That's definitely something to keep thinking about. A bit unsettling, really. Thanks for joining us as we tried to make sense of this very strange story.